Howdy folks, hope you all had a good weekend, and welcome to another episode of Mingles with Jingles. And there is plenty of news this week. Admittedly, most of it's about Oblivion Remastered, but not everything. For example, have you heard about this week's sponsor, Incogni? You might have noticed you're getting an awful lot of spam emails or text messages, or perhaps you're getting some oddly specific advertising that pops up every time you visit your favourite websites. Maybe you suddenly find yourself paying way over the rate of interest for products and services that you've been using for years. None of this is accidental, because there are thousands of data broker companies out there collecting, aggregating and trading your personal data without you know anything about it. The good news is you do have the right to request that these data brokers erase your personal details from their records. The bad news is it would take you years to do it manually, if you even knew where to start, and that's where Incogni comes in. You click a link in the video description or head over to incogni.com/jingles, you get an exclusive 60% off and have Incogni take care of all the heavy lifting for you. Just create an Incogni account, tell them whose data you want removed. That's it. Incogni takes care of the rest. And new, as of April 2025, Incogni have introduced their Unlimited and Family Unlimited plans, extending Incogni's protection not just to yourself, but to your friends and family too. That's click the link in the video description or head over to incogni.com/jingles and use code JINGLES to get 60% off your Incogni plan and take your data off the market. So, anyway, yeah, Oblivion Remastered, quite possibly the worst kept secret in gaming. I mean, everybody knew that something was coming. I just don't think anybody expected it to come as early as it did. There have been various leaks. People knew that they were working on a remaster of Oblivion. But the way it was launched, hosting a live stream to show off and confirm that yes, you were in fact working on an Oblivion remaster, and then at the end of the live stream announcing, and it's on sale now. I mean, yeah, you got to respect that. So Oblivion, it's back. I mean, it's basically a 20-year-old game. And what they've done is, it is still the same game, except they've kind of got the old Oblivion engine running. Oh, and it wasn't Bethesda who did any of this, by the way. They hired a third-party development team to actually do the remaster. And what they've basically done is they've taken the original Oblivion game engine, and then they've just kind of slapped an Unreal Engine 5 skin, if you like, over the top of it. So graphically, as you can see, because this is the game running in the background, it looks pretty good. It certainly looks a hell of a lot better than... I mean, it should look a lot better because the original game is 20 years old. And there are certainly parts where it absolutely does look amazing, although it comes at a bit of a cost because it is Unreal Engine 5. But then there are other parts where you can definitely tell that you're looking at a 20-year-old game. And you can definitely feel that you're playing a 20-year-old game, but more on that in a moment. It's doing really, really well. It's hit 4 million players in less than a week. Now that doesn't mean 4 million sales, because a lot of people are going to be playing it on Game Pass, whether that's PC or Xbox Game Pass. Possibly, in fact almost certainly, they've got something very similar to Game Pass on PlayStation 5 as well. In which case a lot of the PlayStation 5 players are also going to be playing it on, well, not for free, because, you know, you pay for your Game Pass, but effectively free. So that's not 4 million sales, but it's still a lot of sales. At $50 a piece for a 20-year-old game with a graphical overhaul. Oh, wow. Yeah. I think, as I said, kind of the same thing about the Red Dead Redemption release. I'm talking about the original Red Dead Redemption here, the 2010 game, not Red Dead Redemption 2, which did have a PC release, but Red Dead Redemption, the original, never did until last year when it got... You can't even really call it a remaster because they didn't improve anything to do with the game. They basically just made it available and work on PC, and they charged $40 for it. $40 for a 15-year-old game with no overhauls, no graphical updates. Well, technically you could run it at a higher resolution than it was originally available back on the PlayStation 3. But we're not talking... You know, no upscaling, no ray tracing, just Red Dead Redemption. 15 years old, now running on PC, $40, please. Rockstar, are you taking the piss? Well, apparently yes, and it doesn't end there, because apparently there's an excellent chance they're going to be charging $100 for Grand Theft Auto 6 when that eventually drops, but that's another story entirely. The thing is, while asking $40 for a 15-year-old game, that's basically just a PC port, is taking the piss. The thing is, I mean, it's also kind of worth it, because the original Red Dead Redemption was, and still is, an amazingly good game. And it's kind of the same with Oblivion, even though there are differences. Oblivion's even older, it's a nearly 20-year-old game. And they're asking even more for it, $50 instead of $40. But they have at least updated the graphics. Although, I mean, look at it. It's certainly not bad. And it's leagues better than the original Oblivion graphics. But it's not that good. I mean, you can definitely still tell that you're basically looking at a 20-year-old game, just with a graphical remaster. And you pay a heavy price for that graphical remaster. It's Unreal Engine 5, and it's a bit of a resource hog. And I mean, it really, really, really is a bit of a resource hog. Just take a look at the visuals on screen right now. I mean, in certain parts, you might actually think you're looking at the original 20-year-old Oblivion. In other parts, depending on what you're looking at, I mean, that doesn't look that much better than Skyrim or Fallout 4. It can look pretty nice. I mean, when you cast the view up and you look at the horizon and the stuff in the distance, yeah, I mean, that's pretty nice, but it in no way looks next generation. In fact, it barely even looks current generation. I mean, it doesn't look bad, but, you know, the graphics aren't setting the world on fire. I think that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 looks better than this, and it doesn't use Unreal Engine 5. It actually uses the Cry engine. Would it surprise you to know that this is being played on ultra settings on an RTX 5090, the most powerful graphics card in the world? And I cannot get 60 frames per second unless I turn frame generation on. Outdoors, without frame generation or upscaling, just running in native 4K, I get around 50 frames per second. In a 20-year-old game, and I'm paying, well, I'm actually paying more than $50. I pay £50. It's actually more expensive here in the UK. And I'm paying that much for the privilege. And I already have Oblivion. I've got the Oblivion Game of the Year edition. And it doesn't cost $50. And yet, it's hard to say it's not worth it, because Oblivion still remains one of the best games ever made. Even if there are times, like right now, where you might think you're playing Skyrim rather than something that was released in 2025. I do feel a little weird criticising it though, because I seem to be the only one. I'm watching people, particularly people who never played the original Oblivion, you know, people who were too young to be playing PC games when the original Oblivion came out nearly 20 years ago, and they are just loving this Oblivion remaster. I was expecting, you know, most of the love coming from, you know, people like me who were playing it out of nostalgia, people who had played the original game. And there's a lot of that as well. But most of the love for the Oblivion remaster is coming from people who never had the chance to play it the first time around. They're actually loving these 20-year-old game mechanics, which is, well, it's really, really surprising and kind of encouraging as well. You know, there's a little bit of, wow, really? Because, I mean, Oblivion was, well, it wasn't even groundbreaking at the time, because they were basically just building on what Bethesda had already done in Morrowind, which was the first Elder Scrolls game that wasn't procedurally generated, where they instead built what Bethesda became famous for, handcrafted worlds. Morrowind was the first time they did that. Oblivion, they basically, same again, but improved on it. So while Oblivion was amazing, and in many ways still is, there was absolutely nothing new about it. And there's certainly nothing new about it now, 20 years on. And yet, people love it. And I find myself in the horrible position of kind of having the same opinion. Oh, I'm going to hell for this one. As former Blizzard CEO, Mike Ybarra. Although I don't agree 100% with what he's saying, and the fact that he's saying it is hilariously ironic. I should probably explain. So, I mean, when the Oblivion remaster was released, it only took it a couple of hours to get past 120,000 concurrent players. Which, I mean, let's be honest here, for a 20-year-old remaster, that's just amazing. Former Blizzard CEO Mike Ybarra is not impressed, however. He said, "I'm skeptical about 20-year-old remasters. What was once fantastic, now remastered, will never hold up against modern masterpieces like Elden Ring. The bar has simply moved from safe open-world RPGs to what Elden Ring brought us all. I would love to be proven wrong, but I'm not. I think we've had so many remasters that nostalgia is limited. I could be wrong, but I think the gaming community wants fresh and new more than ever." Alright, let's just stick a pin in that and circle round back to it in a moment, because on the one hand, and this is where I can't help but feel that if I'm agreeing with Mike Ybarra, then I must be wrong. Right? And it's me. It's not the game. But I kind of see sort of what he's saying. Because the game mechanics, they are kind of old hat. I mean, if you look at something like, I mean, he used Elden Ring as an example, and I've never played Elden Ring, so I can't comment on that. But he's probably not wrong. But I mean, I have played Baldur's Gate 3, I have played Cyberpunk 2077, I've played lots of modern RPGs, and I mean, the genre has come along leaps and bounds as far as gameplay mechanics are concerned since Oblivion. Even Baldur's Gate 3, which in many ways is a throwback to the old way of doing things, kind of like Oblivion, but just does it so much better. So I can kind of, God help me, I'm going to hell for this, see, and to an extent, sort of agree with what Mike Ybarra was saying, but 120,000 concurrent players, 4 million people playing, I mean, they can't all be wrong, you know what I mean? And the fact that I find myself sort of sympathising and kind of agreeing with an utter cockroach like Mike Ybarra. I'm watching all of these people talking about Oblivion Remaster. I'm thinking, these guys playing the same game as me. It's not that good. And I think maybe it might just be me. And also, because I said I wanted to circle back to what Mike Ybarra said, because what was the quote? Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Oh yeah, here we go. He said, this is the funny part. In fact, I don't know how I managed to keep a straight face the first time I repeated this quote, but he actually said, "I think we've had so many remasters that nostalgia is limited. I could be wrong, but I think the gaming community wants fresh and new more than ever." This, from a guy who was the CEO of a company that has done nothing for the last 15 to 20 years but churn out different annual versions of the same shit over and over and over. And then when Bethesda does exactly the same thing with the Oblivion remaster, in fact it's even more exactly the same thing, if that's even possible, because Bethesda aren't even pretending that this is anything different other than a graphical overhaul, Mike Ybarra confidently states, "Yeah, not impressed, gamers want something fresh and new. 120,000 concurrent players on Steam, that's just Steam of course, that doesn't include PlayStation or Xbox, 120,000 concurrent players on Steam, 4 million people playing. I think the evidence would indicate otherwise, Michael. It does kind of sound like you can't tell your arse from your elbow and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And unfortunately, because I do find myself agreeing at least partially with you, well, yeah, maybe, neither do I. But I think what's going on here is actually kind of simple and easy to explain. Because while there have been exceptions, Ybarra noted Elden Ring, which, like I said, I'd never played, but there have been other notable RPGs over the years since Oblivion came out. Games more recently like Cyberpunk 2077 and its Phantom Liberty expansion, which just absolutely raised the bar as far as RPGs are concerned. But in the intervening nearly 2 decades between games like Elden Ring, Cyberpunk and Oblivion, the overwhelming majority of RPGs churned out by the AAA game studios, Bethesda included, Oblivion remasters in one way or another. Skyrim was just Oblivion updated. Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 are just Oblivion updated. God help us, Starfield is just Oblivion updated. They look different, although in the case of Skyrim it doesn't look that different. The stories have been changed, although in the case of Skyrim and Starfield, not even the story's been changed. They're just regurgitating the same shit year after year after year with basically graphical updates and a different story. There has been zero innovation. In fact, if I'm being brutally honest, while Elden Ring definitely did innovate, well, even Elden Ring didn't really innovate that much. I mean, it's called a Souls-like for a good reason, because it's like Dark Souls. So exactly how much innovation can there be in something that's like Dark Souls? But you get what I mean. Baldur's Gate 3, and I know I'm going to catch hell for saying this, wasn't really innovative. I mean, it was, but not for the reasons that you might be thinking. What Baldur's Gate 3 did was give us, in a way that was completely unprecedented until that game came out, the freedom of doing on PC what you could do playing Dungeons and Dragons on tabletop. They were basically giving you something that's existed in pen and paper form for years. So in that way, they weren't innovating anything. But the fact that they were able to put that on PC and give you that same level of freedom, that was what was innovative about Baldur's Gate 3, and the reason why it more than deserved all of the praise. And then you look at something like Cyberpunk 2077, and I will happily choose this hill to die on. Cyberpunk is the best role-playing game I have ever played on PC. And the expansion, Phantom Liberty, was even better. But I kind of have to confess, it doesn't really do anything that different to Oblivion. It just does it all exceptionally well. And obviously, since it's a much, much newer game, it looks, plays, and feels a lot better. But it should, because it's a much, much newer game. But that's the thing. Any RPG released on PC in, well, let's be generous and say just the last 10 years, should play better than Oblivion. But so few of them do. Which is why it's supremely ironic that that cockroach, Mike Ybarra, is dismissing the success of the Oblivion remaster by saying, it's just the same old shit. People want something that's fresh and new. Well, maybe while you were CEO of Activision Blizzard, you could have put your money where your mouth was and developed and published anything that was actually new, instead of just churning out seasonal remasters of the same old shit year after year after year. Because it turns out that if you give people the choice of playing the same shit with a seasonal remaster year after year after year, and asking $60, $70, in the case of the Switch 2, $80 for the privilege, and if the rumours are true, and they probably are, and Rockstar has their way, $100 for the privilege when it comes to Grand Theft Auto 6, well, it turns out that 120,000 concurrent players and 4 million overall are a lot happier to just go back and play the original. And honestly, who can blame them? So while I did find myself watching a lot of these videos on YouTube of people trying out Oblivion Remastered, whether that was the second time around because they played the original game, or the first time around because they were too young to have played the original game. And in general, the reactions were overwhelmingly positive, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, are you guys playing the same game as me? But, you know, on second thoughts, in retrospect, actually, yeah, I do kind of get it. It does actually make sense. And while I do think it's hilariously overpriced for what it is, in the same way that the Red Dead Redemption PC port was hilariously overpriced for what it was, while I feel like I can be, I'm not quite sure how to explain this, let's just say, and it's not quite the right way to put it, but let's say while I feel I am factually correct in saying that $50 is too much for a 20-year-old game, the same way that $40 was too much for a 15-year-old game in the case of Red Dead Redemption, if you feel like you're getting your money's worth, if you are being entertained for the price that you've paid for either of these games, and you probably are being entertained because despite the age, they are both still very, very good games, well then it has to be worth it. Even if you can't get 60 frames per second on an RTX 5090 without turning on frame generation and DLSS upscaling on a 20-year-old game. As long as you're being entertained, well then it by definition has to be worth the cost of entry. Oh, and Robocop Rogue City's getting a standalone expansion as well. Yay! Which has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the Oblivion remaster, but I thought I'd just throw that in because I absolutely loved the Robocop game. Same price, by the way. Same price, exactly the same price as the Oblivion remaster. And it's not 20 years old, it also runs on Unreal Engine 5. And it's getting an expansion. It's coming out in June, July. Standalone, so you don't even need the original game. Definitely going to be playing that because I absolutely loved Robocop Rogue City. Big fan of the developers, Teon. First game of theirs that I played was Terminator Resistance back in 2019. I'm not even sure how it came to my attention, but I saw it on Steam and it had very positive reviews and I thought, well, it's not that expensive, I'll give it a go. Very, very impressed. Certainly way better than I was expecting. And then Robocop Rogue City came out 2 years ago now, 2023. Wow, time flies. And again, I wasn't particularly excited or interested. I just thought, it's just another one of these games. They're cashing in on the name. It's not going to be any good. And again, very positive user reviews on Steam. And I took a closer look and realised it was from Teon. I thought, yeah, the same guys that did Terminator Resistance. Yeah, that was pretty good. Okay, I'll give it a go. And it was. It was even better than Terminator Resistance. They just seem to keep getting better and better with every game they produce. So very much looking forward to this new Robocop game that comes out in July. Maybe I'll even finish Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 by then, because I'm definitely going to be playing this. So anyway, that's it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. Hopefully I've given you all something to talk about in the comments. Hope you've all had a fantastic weekend. Hope the forthcoming week isn't going to suck too much. My week's already looking up. I've just installed a new toilet seat that actually works properly. Yeah, I know. Too much information. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.